what I want to do with this little recording I'm doing here is I want to make the points I made in my stupid long 40-minute Wattson video. In that video, I had dragged it out. I had done lots of explanations. I made points multiple times because I felt like it was necessary. And even when I'm discussing this with people online, I can say something and they'll just kind of dodge what I said and not really encounter it. Essentially, what people are doing is they are ignoring the explanations that I am offering and that Respawn is offering, and that's why they're not doing it anymore. That's why they're doing this. And maybe they could put more effort into trying to get us to understand. But the thing is every time they try, people get really mad at them. Like, they're under no obligation to come to the subreddit and explain to the community what's going on. And their thought process. That is not Respawn's job at all. What Respawn's job is to make the game fun. That does involve making us feel like the characters are fun, but you have to understand that simply as responsible game developers, they can't buff a character if, going by their data, that character performs fine. I want to share this video, what I'm trying to talk about. And the thing is, in my other video, I actually read directly from the developers. So if anything that you hear me say and you're like, he's just making that up, it's like, no, I'm not making this up. Maybe I'll get like something very small wrong, but everything I'm about to tell you, I get from the developers. All right. So, okay, let me just get to it. Why do characters like Wattson and Lifeline do well according to Respawn? Why won't they buff these characters? The reason is because these characters are good because their hitboxes are small. The typical response I see to that is, well, if you're good enough at aiming, the small hitbox doesn't matter. And, well, it's true that the better you are at aiming, the less problem you are going to have with a smaller character. The simple logical answer or response to that, everyone misses shots. Everyone misses bullets. And smaller targets are simply hit less. Let's say you have an accuracy of 50% when it comes to a normal character. Okay, now that's 35% when you're shooting at a smaller character. Let's say you have an accuracy of 80%, and then it's like a slightly smaller character, and now you're only hitting, like 65% of your shots on that character. The simple fact of the matter is that the smaller a character is, the less they will literally be hit by bullets, and this is huge. And you can imagine in your head, like up close, like, I don't have a problem with that. It's like, you're not really keeping track of how many bullets you're missing on different characters. Like, I know you're not doing that. The developers can see this, and they can also, even if they weren't measuring, how often a legend gets hit, the other metrics that they can use is that character's success rates. And what I mean by success rates are three things. A character's win rate. Wattson and Lifeline have had the highest for a little while, right? They've been competing for BR win rate. Lifeline and Wattson have similar win rates, and they both have similar small hitboxes, right? Like, Lifeline has a much higher pick rate than Wattson does. So we know that Lifeline's is accurate, and hers is high. Wattson also has this high win rate, and since both of these characters have generally underwhelming abilities, we could probably assume that a big part of that is the hitbox. And another reason that we probably know, or that we know that Wattson's win rate is in an accurate place, is that other characters like Rampart and Fuse have less than optimal win rates as far as I have read, but they also have very low pick rates, right? And something else is, if it was simply just very good players that were carrying this win rate, first of all, Respawn has data on different skill brackets, and according to them, a character like Wattson and, well, both Wattson and Lifeline, they perform very well across all skill levels. A Wattson player, the average Wattson player is going to win more than the average, like, Octane player. The average Lifeline player is going to win more than the average Caustic player or something. I guess I don't actually know how consistent Lifeline's win rate is across skill levels, but they have confirmed that Wattson's is consistent across all skill levels. If we were just looking at the overall number, and the overall number was being carried, then we would probably see her character not doing so well in lower skill, right? And doing better in higher skill. But according to Respawn, that's not what we see. What we see is her doing well across all skill levels because the hitbox is a big thing, whether you realize it or not. And regardless of how good you are, unless if you are hacking and hitting 100% of your shots, you're going to hit smaller targets less. There is such a thing as distance in this game, and not every time when you're fighting is somebody 10 feet in front of you. It makes quite a difference when it's, you know, somebody like Bloodhound running across a field versus somebody like Lifeline, and you're shooting at them from afar. Like, that makes a very big difference. I went on a rant there about win rate, BR win rate. So there's win rate and arena win rate and encounter win rate. And in arena win rate and in BR win rate, Lifeline and Wattson both do very well there. And in encounter win rate, I don't know how Lifeline does, but I do know that, just to clarify, an encounter, by this definition that I read, is just any 1v1. So anytime the character is in a fight, literally just straight shooting each other, or, you know, whatever. It's basically how many times that character kills somebody versus they are killed themselves. Lifeline does the best of any other character as far as I know. It might like not be that like that every day, because they say that like these things kind of like go up and down a bit, but at the very least Wattson has a high encounter win rate. So that means she just kind of like wins fights more than other characters. Just try to digest that for a second. Wattson, one of the most universally accepted to be garbage characters, just kind of succeeds at the game more than other characters. Or the average player of Wattson succeeds at the game more than the average player of other characters. As Wattson's pick rate, if it ever went up, we would see like win rate go down, but it wouldn't be, from what I've read, very much. So she would probably still be in a very balanced area. In my experience, after I learned all of this, I think that this is completely warranted, because I started playing some Lifeline, and Wattson is my most played character. I can tell you that when I switch characters, I feel that hitbox difference, because I rely on it so much subconsciously during fights, because I can get away with so much more. It is actually an escape ability, because you're literally just not being damaged as much when you're running away. A constantly active passive that simply makes you take less damage. And when I'm playing other characters, I go down far more, because I'm not used to the hitbox size of my own character. And now I'm just kind of cursed to play Wattson all the time. Or Lifeline. And when I played Lifeline, my play style, it carried over very well. But if I play a character like Bloodhound, I actually do worse. Even though most people would say that Bloodhound is, you know, just a objectively better character than like Lifeline or Wattson, I do far better on Lifeline and Wattson than I would do on Bloodhound. And I think that the main reason for that, it's very obvious what I'm about to say, is it's the hitbox. I can get away with a lot more as these two characters in just simply in fighting than I can get away with it with Bloodhound. Yes, Bloodhound's abilities are more useful than both of these characters, but the hitbox is more useful than any ability. And that's why these characters have underwhelming abilities. Essentially, I don't care how skilled you are at this game, unless if you have access to the information that the developers have, I don't care about your opinion on Legends anymore. I had the same opinion as everybody else. I would make tier lists, and my tier lists were very similar to essentially what everybody else made. But now I think that most of the characters in this game are very well balanced. Respawn has the objective data of millions of matches of Apex Legends for all skill levels, okay? And they have it in different skill brackets, and they can see how powerful characters are at different points. You can play this game for hundreds of hours, and your subjective opinion, your anecdotal experience, is nothing compared to that objective data. I don't care who you are. You don't know what you're talking about. For 99% of players, I don't think it really matters what character you pick. I think obviously it does matter, you know, for like just a little bit. But the thing that matters most in this game is, at the end of the day, your gun skill. We're all worrying about this stuff as if it's a huge deal. If you are a casual player none of this matters because mostly only good and lots of Season 0 players play Life, Wattson, Bangalore, and Wraith. The thing is this argument does not make any sense because Respawn has data for different skill brackets. They can separate them. It's not just one percentage number of every player of Apex Legends. And do I even have to say anything else there? Like, that's just... they just have the data for different skill brackets. That argument doesn't hold up. The main problem here is that the characters don't feel as powerful as each other. And you know what gets me is for the longest time, everybody after this, like these Caustic nerfs, everybody's been saying that Caustic is terrible. And then he shows up in ALGS. Everybody's like, oh, I guess, you know, Caustic's good. The problem is that everybody is relying way too hard on professional opinion. And also tournaments are a completely different game. Everybody's said that before. I mean, you can say whatever you want. You can try to come up with any explanation, but nothing is going to change the fact that a character like Lifeline and Wattson perform well across skill levels. And until that ever changes, by definition, those characters are balanced. As a responsible game designer, what are you supposed to do when the community is mad at you, but the character seems to be more powerful than other characters? What are you supposed to do? Well, you can try to explain yourself, and that's, you know, what they've done, but then nobody understands, and it just makes people more angry. Any arguments Respawn has made against buffering her have been absurd. Of course, she's going to have high win rate and encounter win rate. 0.6% of people play her. Well, it's not 0.6%, is it? Last time I checked, it was like 2% or something. I could be wrong there. It's been this way for months, where she's had a high win and encounter win rate, low pick rate. I don't think that we can use the excuse of a low pick rate for a high rates anymore. Do they realize her winner is so high because her pick rate is so low? I know I've already said, I've like addressed this point like 3 times, but I want to do it again. You can't just make up an explanation for the data because it doesn't fit your preconceived notion. But what you have to do is you have to realize that there is a reason for things before you realize what the reason is. There is a reason that Wattson has a high win rate, even if we don't understand it, even if we can't comprehend it instantly, and even if it goes against everything that you feel like you see in game. Naturally, most Wattson players you see aren't going to look that good. You're not going to see the effect of a character with a low pick rate. This goes back to the fact that your subjective experience while playing the game, it's worth nothing. It doesn't mean anything because it's so small in comparison to the millions of matches that Respawn can look at. They look at the sum of millions of matches of this game. Accept that something is true and then look for the explanation afterwards, honestly and earnestly. Don't just defy reality or data because it doesn't fit in with what you already think, because what it probably means is that what you already think is wrong. This concerns me a little bit. I think they might give her a hitbox increase, but yeah, it sounds like they're going to buff her abilities, increase her hitbox. Nobody's going to care. Nobody's going to give a crap about the increased hitbox because they're not actually going to think it's going to matter. It is going to matter, which is, you know, why they're increasing it. If they do, I assume they will. Why did they mess with his hitbox? Well, you know why they did if you've watched this video by now. They gave him the Stalker, but they nerfed him? Why did they do that? That doesn't make any sense. It's like, no, it does, because this is big. This is huge for his overall power. His power is more spread out. It's less focused in just his abilities. So I think this is good. But that's the reason why that is. There is a reason they change character hitbox sizes, and we should realize this. It's because it does something.